Chapter 3196. Alright, all of you can cultivate here. Activating the Sagely Heaven Jade Wall requires a vast amount of energy. Therefore, each of you should cultivate for as long as you need. When the time is up, your jade talismans will notify you. If anyone wants to take advantage of the situation and waste more time, don't blame the Bone Sword tribe for being impolite. An elite from the Bone Sword tribe said. Everyone nodded, then found a place to sit cross-legged under the Sagely Heaven Jade Wall and began to cultivate. Lu Ming, Chiu Moon, and Lan Ling also sat cross-legged under the Sagely Heaven Jade Wall. When they entered the state of cultivation, a mysterious energy enveloped them from the Sagely Heaven Jade Wall. At this moment, they entered a state of emptiness. In this state, their minds were extremely clear, and they were able to think and comprehend things much faster than usual. It's amazing! Lu Ming thought, then closed his eyes and began to comprehend the divine power of Moon. Immediately, Lu Ming made a discovery. He realized that comprehending the divine power of Moon here was at least 100 times faster than usual. Yes, it was 100-fold. Lu Ming was shocked by this effect. It was no wonder that so many people wanted to cultivate under the Sagely Heaven Jade Wall. What Lu Ming didn't know was that the Sagely Heaven Jade Wall was also related to one's talent. The higher one's talent and the higher one's comprehension, the greater one's harvest and the better the effect of cultivating under the Sagely Heaven Jade Wall. The worse one's talent, the worse the effect. Lu Ming could achieve this effect because of his amazing talent. He thought that everyone would have this effect. The Sagely Heaven Jade Wall was too heaven-defying. Under this effect, Lu Ming's comprehension of the divine power of Moon increased rapidly. Moreover, as Lu Ming continued to deepen his comprehension, the speed of his comprehension actually increased. Time flew by quickly. Many people's cultivation time was up, and their bodies emitted a glow. This was to remind them that their time was up. These people were reluctant to leave, and they really wanted to continue cultivating. However, after seeing the light in the eyes of the Bone Sword tribe's elites, they gave up on this idea and left reluctantly. Slowly, there were fewer and fewer people under the Sagely Heaven Jade Wall. 6 days later, Lu Ming's heart stirred, and he suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were shining brightly. He had broken through. The divine power of Moon had broken through, and he had awakened the origin divine power factor. The Sun-Moon divine power had already been awakened to 99%. It was only one step away from awakening. Now, with the help of the Sagely Heaven Jade Wall, Lu Ming's comprehension speed had increased to an astonishing level. He was able to comprehend the crux of the matter and break through the bottleneck. However, Lu Ming tried his best to restrain himself and did not let the aura of the awakened origin divine power factor leak out. After all, there were still quite a few people around. If they knew that he controlled many kinds of divine powers, it would be bad. Very soon, Lu Ming stabilized himself and comprehended another type of divine power, the Sun divine power. Of his divine power of his power of time. It was worth it. This trip was really worth it. The speed of improvement was too fast. Every time he awakened a new type of divine power, his combat prowess would increase by a level. Lu Ming cultivated in peace. The others had also gained a lot. The Sagely Heaven Jade Wall was mainly used to comprehend divine power, such as the Origin Divine Power Factor or the Origin Secret Technique. Lan Ling was also immersed in her cultivation. She could cultivate here for a total of 12 days. On the 10th day, her body emitted a special aura. Then she seemed to see a beam of light, a beam of sword light. Origin's Secret Technique. Lan Ling was overjoyed. She understood that she had touched upon the Origin Secret Technique. Lan Ling's talent was extraordinary. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to awaken the Origin Divine Power Factor. With the guidance of Blue Merchant, her foundation was incomparably solid. Now, under the stimulation of the Sagely Heaven Jade Wall, she finally had a shocking breakthrough. This fluctuation, it's the Origin Secret Technique. Nearby, the experts of the Bone Sword tribe also noticed the change in Lan Ling, and they were all surprised. The Great Void Imperial Family's Sacred Academy is convening. More and more geniuses are gathering in the holy capital. That's right. She can awaken the origin secret technique at the first level of the Divine King realm. She's a peerless talent. Several experts of the Bone Sword tribe nodded. As time passed, Lan Ling's understanding of the origin secret technique became clearer. On the 12th day, she could finally control the origin secret technique. At this time, her cultivation time was up. A ray of light shone from her body, and Lan Ling woke up. Origin secret technique. I've finally awakened the origin secret technique. I'll go back and get some guidance from Father. It'll be completely stable soon. Lan Ling stood up. She couldn't help but look happy. During this period, she saw that Lu Ming and Autumn Moon had both awakened the origin secret technique. As competitive as she was, she felt uncomfortable. Now that she had finally awakened the origin secret technique, she was naturally happy. After glancing at Lu Ming and Autumn Moon, who were cultivating, Lan Ling didn't stay. She left immediately. After leaving, she went straight to her residence. Ling, you're back. Why are you alone? Where's Lu Ming and the others? Blue Merchant asked in surprise when he saw that only Lan Ling had returned. They're still cultivating under the sacred heaven jade wall. It's time for me to cultivate. Father, let me show you the results of my cultivation. Lan Ling said eagerly. Then, she circulated her divine power and a ray of divine light appeared. This ray of divine light was like a sword light. Lan Ling's mind moved. This ray of divine light turned into a shocking sword light and slashed out. Origin's secret technique? Blue Merchant could tell at a glance that this was the Origin's secret technique. He was overjoyed. Father, Ling has finally awakened the Origin's secret technique. However, my mastery is still low. I still need your guidance. Lan Ling said with a smile. Ah, of course. I'll teach you some of the tricks of cultivating the Origin's secret technique. Blue Merchant smiled. He had already taught these tricks to Lu Ming. The father and daughter began to cultivate here. As time passed, Lan Ling's mastery of the Origin's secret technique also became more and more proficient. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 days had passed. On this day, Lan Ling was cultivating in the courtyard. The door of their courtyard was opened and a group of people walked in. Third uncle, why didn't you tell me when you returned to the holy capital? I could have held a welcoming dinner for you. A young man chuckled. Blue Maple, why are you here? Blue Merchant's face darkened. This young man was Blue Maple. Third uncle, I'm here to see you. Why do you look so unhappy? You're making me sad. Blue Maple deliberately put on a sad expression. However, in the next moment, he smiled and said, Third uncle, come, let me introduce you. Blue Maple pointed to a young man in luxurious clothes beside him and said, This is the son of the imperial tutor, Wu Fan. Chapter 3197. Wu Fan. Blue Merchant's heart sank. He had a bad premonition. Indeed, Blue Maple continued, the Lan family has already agreed to the imperial tutor's proposal. They want to marry cousin Lan Ling to brother Wu Fan. Today, we are here to take cousin Lan Ling away. These words made Lan Ling tremble. Wu Fan, your son-in-law, greets father-in-law. Wu Fan stepped forward and clasped his fist at Blue Merchant. Blue Merchant waved his hand and a wave of soul power stopped Wu Fan from bowing. I did not agree to marry my daughter to you. I am not worthy of being called young Master Wu. Ha, father-in-law, you must be joking. Miss Lan Ling and I will be getting married soon. What's the harm in calling her a few days earlier? Wu Fan smiled. I have said that I did not agree to marry my daughter to you. Blue Merchant's face darkened. Third uncle, the higher-ups of the Lan family have already agreed to this marriage. You have to agree even if you don't want to. Blue Maple said coldly. Ha, what a joke. I was expelled from the Lan family long ago. I am no longer a member of the Lan family. What right does the Lan family have to decide my daughter's marriage? You can leave now. Forgive me for not sending you off. Blue Merchant waved his hand and ordered them to leave. Blue Merchant, you are the one who was expelled, not Lan Ling. Today, even if you don't agree, we will take Lan Ling away. Blue Maple's voice was cold. He had completely shed all pretense of cordiality. Ling heir will not come to the holy capital. Blue Merchant said. Ah, Blue Merchant, Do you think we are stupid? Blue Maple burst into laughter. His gaze landed on Lan Ling as he said, "Don't think that we can't tell just because you've changed your appearance. We've been monitoring your every move ever since you stepped into the holy capital. She is Lan Ling." Blue Maple pointed at Lan Ling. "I am Lan Ling. So what? I will never marry Wu Fan. Get out of here." Lan Ling was unable to restrain her anger. She finally couldn't help but shout. "How dare you speak to young Master Wu Fan like that?" Blue Maple shouted. Scram. Blue Merchant shouted as well. His face was extremely cold. "Blue Merchant, don't be so shameless. Young Master Wu Fan is the son of the Imperial Advisor. His talent is unparalleled, and he is one of the 10 heroes of the Holy Capital. When the Holy Courtyard of the Great Void Imperial family opens this time, he will definitely be able to enter the top 10 and obtain the right to establish his own family. For him to take a fancy to Lan Ling is her great fortune. Do you understand?" Blue Maple shouted. "I don't need such good fortune." Lan Ling shouted. "Hee hee, what a stubborn character." Wu Fan maintained a smile on his face. At this moment, he said, "However, I like this kind of character. I will tell you clearly that the woman that I, Wu Fan, have taken a fancy to must be mine. Today, you have to leave even if you don't want to. Men, take her away." Wu Fan waved his hand. Behind him, a middle-aged man stepped out and walked towards Lan Ling. Blue Merchant took a step forward and came in front of Lan Ling. He shielded Lan Ling behind him. His glabella shone and a strong soul power surged out. It turned into a palm and blasted towards the man. The middle-aged man's body shook violently and he retreated. "With me here today, no one can take Ling Air away," Blue Merchant said. "Hee hee, do you still think you are the Blue Merchant of the past? Your star core has been destroyed. What's the use of having a little soul power? Heck, take them down." The smile on Wu Fan's face disappeared. It was replaced by a cold, murderous intent. Boom. Behind him, another 2 burly men stepped out. Together with the previous one, there were 3 of them. They rushed towards Blue Merchant. The 3 burly men exuded a violent aura. The 3 burly men were all at the 7th Heaven Divine King realm. "Get lost. Don't force me to kill you," Blue Merchant shouted. "Arrogant. Kill anyone who tries to stop you," Wu Fan ordered. Boom, boom, boom. The 3 burly men exuded a terrifying aura. Their bodies were like mountains as they pounced towards Blue Merchant. Their violent aura surged towards Blue Merchant like stormy waves. Blue Merchant's glabella shone and a vast soul power appeared. It turned into a sword light and slashed out. The 3 burly men's attacks collapsed instantly. They retreated 100 meters away. There was a sword wound on each of their chests. Blood flowed out from it. "How can your soul power be so strong?" one of the burly men shouted in shock. Blue Merchant's star core had been destroyed, but he still had such strong combat strength. Both Blue Maple and Wu Fan were astonished as well. "Blue Merchant, how dare you hurt my men? You're courting death. Wu Shui, take him down. If he resists, kill him," Wu Fan shouted coldly. Behind him, a man in a crimson robe rushed out. He waved his hand and waves of blood rolled out. It turned into a crimson saber and slashed towards Blue Merchant. This man was at the 9th Heaven Divine King realm. He was at the peak of the Divine King realm. His combat strength was terrifying. "Kill!" Blue Merchant shouted. He was enraged. His soul power turned into a sword and slashed out again. Boom! The sword light and the crimson saber collided. There was an earth-shattering explosion and the entire area shook violently. When the 2 of them collided, a pillar of light shot up into the sky and pierced through the clouds. "Someone is fighting. What terrifying fluctuations. It's a fight between peak divine kings." Instantly, the people in the area were alarmed. They flew over and hovered in the air, watching from afar. "That seems to be the son of the Imperial Preceptor, Wu Fan. That's right. There's also Blue Maple from the Lan family. Who are they dealing with?" "Blue Merchant. It's Blue Merchant." Someone shouted as he recognized Blue Merchant. "What? The one from back then? Was he the one who attacked just now? Wasn't his star core destroyed? How can he still have such combat strength? The people in the area started to discuss among themselves. When they recognized Blue Merchant, they were even more shocked. The crimson-robed man trembled and took a step back. However, after the crimson-robed man retreated, he let out a roar and charged towards Lan Shang. His divine power surged like a tidal wave, and a star core could be vaguely seen burning in his dantian like the sun. The vast divine force turned into terrifying saber light and slashed towards Blue Merchant. The crimson-robed man's strength was definitely not weaker than the Jin family master and Qin family master of the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion. The moment the crimson-robed man attacked, the 3 burly men moved as well. However, the 3 burly men did not charge towards Blue Merchant. Instead, they charged towards Lan Ling. The 3 burly men were 7th-layer Divine King Realm cultivators. Their divine force was as strong as a mountain as they charged towards Lan Ling. Facing such experts, Lan Ling did not have the slightest strength to resist. Lan Ling was about to fall into the hands of the 3 burly men. "You're courting death." Lan Shang was infuriated. His soul power surged and turned into a terrifying sword light, bursting forth. One of the sword lights blocked the crimson-robed man's attack while the others charged towards the 3 burly men. Blood splattered and the 3 burly men were slashed apart. Chapter 3198. Blood splashed everywhere. The 3 middle-aged men at the 7th King God Realm were cut into halves by Lan Shang's soul sword. They died on the spot. "Let's go." After killing the 3 middle-aged men, Blue Merchant took Lan Ling and soared into the sky. They wanted to leave this place. "Don't let them escape," Wu Fan shouted. The bloody man soared into the sky and slashed out many blood-red saber lights. There were 7 saber lights in total. They attacked Blue Merchant from different directions. Even Lan Ling was surrounded by them. If Blue Merchant continued to run, Lan Ling would be hit by the blood-red saber lights. Lan Shang's figure suddenly stopped, and the killing intent on his body surged. His eyes shone like 2 stars. That was the result of his extremely condensed soul strength. His forehead glowed, and his surging soul strength condensed into a huge palm that slammed out behind him. Boom, boom, boom. The 7 blood-red saber lights couldn't withstand a single blow from the palm formed by Wu Fan's soul strength. They collapsed instantly. The palm didn't stop. It continued to hit the man in the blood-red robe. The man in the blood-red robe screamed in agony as he was blown away. He retreated for tens of thousands of meters before falling to the ground. Many people scanned the area with their spiritual consciousness. They realized that the man in the blood-red robe was no longer breathing. His soul strength had been destroyed. Many people gasped in shock. The man in the blood-red robe was an expert of the 9th King God Realm. He was killed just like that? Didn't Blue Merchant have his stellar core destroyed? How could he still be so strong? Normally, once a person's stellar core was destroyed, his divine power would be depleted. Even if he still had a little soul strength, he wouldn't be able to do anything. However, Blue Merchant could kill a 9th King God Realm expert with 1 blow. It went against common sense. After killing the man in the blood-red robe, Blue Merchant took Lan Ling and continued to fly. They wanted to leave this place. "Stay." A cold voice resounded. There was an old man behind Wu Fan. He hadn't taken any action before. However, at that moment, he made his move. He opened his mouth and roared. His divine power boiled, and like a long river, it soared into the sky and swept Lan Shang into it. Blue Merchant unleashed a palm strike with all his might, colliding with the river of divine power. Rumble! It was as if an earthquake had taken place, causing the void to tremble violently. Blue Merchant's body shook violently as he brought Lan Ling back tens of thousands of meters. The old man stepped forward. No one saw how he moved, but in the next moment he appeared 100 meters away from Blue Merchant. His speed was unbelievable. "Divine Lord," Blue Merchant said with a solemn expression. The others were shocked as well. This old man was a Divine Lord realm powerhouse. Wu Fan was indeed the only son of the Imperial Tutor. He had a Divine Lord by his side at all times. "Blue Merchant, you dared to kill an expert from the Imperial Tutor's residence. No one can save you." Quan Lu. Break Blue Merchant's limbs and seal his soul. Bring Lan Ling back to the Imperial Tutor's residence. Today, I want to make her my woman. Let's see who can stop me. Wu Fan said domineeringly. Blue Merchant had dared to kill an expert from the Imperial Tutor's residence. In Wu Fan's heart, he had already sentenced Blue Merchant to death. Boom. The old man was called Quan Lu. A terrifying aura emanated from his body. The vast aura turned into a terrifying pressure that pressed down on Blue Merchant. Linger, back off. Blue Merchant's glabella shone brightly. His soul power covered his body to resist the pressure. At the same time, he ordered Lan Ling father. Lan Ling was worried. The old man was a Divine Lord realm expert. Could Blue Merchant fight him? Back off. Blue Merchant repeated with a heavier tone. Lan Ling could only back off obediently. Let us go. Blue Merchant looked at Quan Lu. You still want to leave? Dream on. Today, don't even think about leaving. Wu Fan's voice was extremely cold. You better not force me. Otherwise, I'll destroy you all. Blue Merchant's eyes were filled with cold, killing intent. Blue Merchant, don't try to intimidate others. Your star core has been destroyed. I don't believe you can still be a match for a Divine Lord. Lan Feng shouted. Quan Lu. Wu Fan ordered. Boom. Quan Lu attacked. His body burned like a star. His divine power surged and condensed into a giant python that pounced on Blue Merchant. The giant python streaked across the void. The space shook violently. The vast pressure caused the surrounding people to retreat in fear. Blue Merchant's eyes were solemn. His soul power condensed into a giant hand that grabbed forward. However, the giant python swung its tail and hit the giant hand. The giant hand shook violently and shattered. Blue Merchant's body retreated. A cripple wants to fight against a Divine Lord. You're courting death. Wu Fan sneered. After forcing Lan Shang to retreat, Quan Fei's God Force continued to surge out, and the giant python once again attacked Lan Shang. Blue Merchant tried his best to resist. However, he was no match for Quan Lu. He was suppressed and was in a precarious situation. Blue Merchant is nothing to be afraid of. Brother Wu, I'll take Lan Ling down. Tonight, you can train her well. Lan Feng laughed proudly. His body flashed and he charged towards Lan Ling. Get lost. Lan Ling saw Lan Feng approaching. She shouted angrily and slashed at Lan Feng with her sword. Lan Feng smashed Lan Ling's sword light with his palm, causing Lan Ling to retreat continuously. You think you can stop me? Surrender. Lan Feng placed one hand behind his back and strode towards Lan Ling. Lan Ling gritted her teeth and activated her divine power. A beam of divine light flew out from her divine power and merged with her combat sword. Swoosh! Lan Ling slashed at Lan Feng again. Sword Chi whistled. The power of this attack was several times stronger than before. Secret technique of origin? Lan Feng roared in disbelief. A combat sword appeared in his hand. He unleashed his divine power and slashed. Clang! Their sword light collided. Lan Feng's cultivation and awakened divine power of origin were higher. Even though Lan Ling had awakened her secret technique of origin, she was still no match for Lan Feng. Her sword light dissipated and she retreated again. Blood flowed from the corner of her mouth. You actually awakened your secret technique of origin. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Lan Feng roared in his heart. He was extremely jealous. He had wholeheartedly wanted to awaken his secret technique of origin, but he couldn't. Back then, he wanted to seize Lu Ming's divine power source bead to awaken his secret technique of origin, but he couldn't do so in the end. Now, Lan Ling had awakened her secret technique of origin. He was envious, jealous, and hateful. Interesting. The more talented a woman is, the more exciting it is to play with her. Wu Fan saw that Lan Ling had awakened her secret technique of origin. His eyes shone brightly and he became more and more interested. So what if you've awakened your secret technique of origin? Do you think you can stop me? Surrender now. Lan Feng roared and unleashed his full strength. Lan Feng's strength was indeed shocking. Lan Ling couldn't block his attack at all. Her body flew out and she vomited blood. She was severely injured. Then, Lan Feng condensed a large hand and grabbed Lan Ling. He wanted to capture Lan Ling in his hand. Ling, I'm going to fight it out with you. Blue Merchant saw this scene and his eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. He roared in anger. His glabella shone brightly. Then, a small person rushed out from his glabella. Chapter 3199. Blue Merchant's glabella shone brightly and a small person walked out from his glabella. This small person looked exactly like Blue Merchant. The small person emitted light and a vast soul power spread out in all directions. Ooh, you're crazy. The Divine Lord Realm Old Man was shocked. Kill. Lan Shang let out a long howl. That tiny person actually transformed into a sword of light. Swoosh. The light sword cut through the void like a ray of immortal light and charged towards the Divine Lord Realm Old Man. The Divine Lord Realm Old Man shouted and set up 18 layers of defense in front of him. However, when the light sword slashed through, the 18 layers of defense were instantly pierced. The light sword did not stop and flew through the Divine Lord Realm Old Man's glabella. The Divine Lord Realm Old Man's body stiffened. His eyes widened, filled with shock and disbelief. Then, his body fell straight to the ground. There was no longer any aura on his body. A Divine Lord Realm powerhouse was killed just like this. There weren't any wounds on the surface of his body, but his soul had already been thoroughly annihilated. No, impossible? Wu roared. Wu Fan let out a low growl in disbelief. That was a Divine Lord. Although he was only a first-level Divine Lord, Blue Merchant's star core was already destroyed. How could he kill a Divine Lord Realm expert? Swoosh. At this moment, a sword light flew out from the Divine Lord Realm Old Man's glabella. It was the sword light condensed by Blue Merchant's soul. However, this sword light was many times dimmer than before. If it was a star before, it was now a candle flame. It flew back to Blue Merchant's glabella. Blue Merchant's body trembled and he spat out a large mouthful of blood. Although he had killed the Divine Lord Realm Old Man, he had also suffered heavy injuries. That move just now was executed by Blue Merchant by burning his soul power. Although he had killed his opponent, his soul power had been exhausted at an alarming rate. Even his lifespan had been greatly reduced. Let go of Ling. After Blue Merchant killed the Divine Monarch Old Man, he charged towards Blue Maple and sent a palm strike towards Blue Maple. At this moment, Blue Merchant's killing intent was cold. He was completely enraged and wanted to kill Blue Maple. Since he had already killed a few people, he didn't mind killing Blue Maple. Blue Maple was already in a daze. He was so frightened that he even forgot to dodge. By the time he reacted, it was already too late. Save me, save me. Blue Maple screamed hysterically. Just as Blue Merchant's palm was about to hit Blue Maple, a terrifying force suddenly came from afar. A saber light slashed toward them at a shocking speed. Boom! The blade light chopped down on Blue Merchant's big hand. The Blue Merchant spat out a mouthful of blood, and his figure retreated rapidly. Rumble! A terrifying tremor came from that direction. It was as if a magnificent army was charging over. The terrifying pressure made it difficult for everyone to breathe. Then, everyone saw a group of soldiers in armor walking over in the air. There were only a dozen soldiers in this group. However, the aura that they exuded was extremely terrifying. Especially the few people walking at the front. Their auras were even more terrifying than the Divine Monarch Old Man. Divine Monarchs? Without a doubt, the few people walking at the front were all Divine Monarchs. They were even stronger than the first-level Divine Monarch Old Man. It's the Imperial Guards. Someone said in a hoarse voice. The Taishu dynasty had a vast territory. However, there were also many enemies. Hence, they had never stopped preparing their weapons. The number of soldiers was uncountable. They had many terrifying soldiers guarding all directions. However, among all the soldiers, the Imperial Guards were undoubtedly the strongest. They were in charge of guarding the Taishu holy capital. Those who could join the Imperial Guards were the strongest of the strongest. They had unlimited potential. Many famous people in the Taishu dynasty had come from the Imperial Guards. The speed of the Imperial Guards was very fast. In an instant, they were close to Lan Shang. A strong pressure pressed down on Lan Shang, causing him to retreat continuously. Captain Wu, it's you. That's great. When Wu Fan saw the Imperial Guards, he was elated. Master Wu Fan, what's going on? The leader of the Imperial Guards asked. Seeing this scene, Blue Merchant's heart sank. Captain Wu, this Blue Merchant is lawless and his methods are vicious. He continuously killed people from the Preceptor's mansion. He even killed a divine monarch. We must take him down and punish him severely. Wu Fan roared. What? He killed a divine monarch? The Imperial Guards were shocked. They looked at Blue Merchant. They naturally knew Blue Merchant. However, wasn't Blue Merchant's star core destroyed? How could he kill a divine monarch? Captain Wu's eyes shined. He looked at Lan Shang and said, so it was soul force. Lan Shang, your talent is truly admirable. But today you have killed people in the holy capital, and even killed a divine Lord Realm powerhouse. This is a violation of the law. You must come with us. Lan Shang sighed. He knew that he wouldn't be able to leave today. He had killed a divine Lord powerhouse and had already exhausted all of his soul force. In fact, he had consumed a great deal of his soul force and was no longer able to fight. Moreover, the strongest people in the Imperial Guards were even stronger than the old man. Even if he didn't exhaust his soul power, he was no match for them. I can go with you. However, this has nothing to do with my daughter. I hope you can let her go. Blue Merchant looked at Lan Ling and said, No, father. You can't go with them. Lan Ling shouted. The prison of the Imperial Guards was one of the most terrifying places in the Taishu dynasty. Not many people could come out after entering. Leave quickly. Blue Merchant shouted. Leave. Today, none of you can leave. Wu Fan's cold voice sounded. Captain Wu, take down Blue Merchant. I will deal with his daughter. After saying that, Wu Fan walked towards Lan Ling. You dare. Blue Merchant was furious. He circulated his remaining soul power and was about to attack Wu Fan. However, Captain Wu waved his hand and a chain flew out, binding Blue Merchant. No matter how Blue Merchant struggled, it was useless. The difference in strength was too great. Captain Wu also sighed in his heart. As an Imperial Guard, he had his duty. Blue Merchant had killed people in the Saint Capital. Moreover, he had killed a monarch god. He had to take down Blue Merchant and bring him to the Imperial Guard's prison for investigation. Moreover, the Imperial Tutor had great power and influence over the Imperial Guards. If he disobeyed Wu Fan's orders, he wouldn't have an easy time in the future. Haha, Blue Merchant, you still want to fight with me? Dream on. I will take good care of your daughter. Wu Fan sneered and walked towards Lan Ling. He waved his hand and tried to grab Lan Ling. Wu Fan was one of the Saint Capital's 10 heroes. He was stronger than Lan Feng. Lan Ling couldn't resist at all. After a few moves, she was enveloped by Wu Fan's hand. Lan Ling was about to fall into Wu Fan's hands. Chapter 3200. Wu Fan used his god power to form a giant hand and surrounded Lan Ling. It looked like it was about to grab Lan Ling. Blue Merchant's eyes were filled with despair. Back in the day, he was unparalleled and his name shook the holy capital. Even Wu Fan's father, the current Imperial Tutor, had to greet him with a smile. But now, even a few juniors could bully him. What was even more tragic was that he couldn't even protect his own daughter. A tiger would be bullied by a dog. At this moment, a gust of wind blew over. This gust of wind was extremely strange. It was like a spring breeze and had no power. However, when it blew against the giant hand that Wu Fan had formed, his hand immediately dissipated. On the other hand, Lan Ling was pulled back by a force. She kept moving away from Wu Fan, Blue Maple and the rest. Who is it? Wu Fan shouted angrily. His eyes were like lightning as he scanned the surroundings. Young man, don't go too far. Where it's possible to let people off, let them off. An old voice rang out. Following which, an old man walked out from the crowd. This old man looked very old. His beard and hair were snowy white. His face was full of wrinkles and his eyes were cloudy. He slowly walked out. He looked like he was walking slowly, but his speed was shocking. Before anyone could react, he had already arrived beside Lan Ling. Old man, Was it you who attacked just now? How dare you meddle in my affairs? I think you must be tired of living at your age. Wu Fan shouted. Young man, you have a big temper. Let me calm you down. The old man said plainly. Then he slapped across the air. No one saw how the old man attacked. They only saw the old man wave his hand. Then, a crisp slap resounded through the crowd. Wu Fan screamed in pain as his body flew out. He spun a few hundred rounds in the air before coming to a stop. Everyone realized that half of his face was swollen like a pig's head. His teeth were flying everywhere. It was a horrible sight. Old man, how dare you hit me? Captain Wu, attack and cripple this old man. I want to feed him to the dogs. Wu Fan screamed hysterically. However, he didn't notice that Captain Wu's face was very serious, and even had a trace of shock. Captain Wu took a few steps forward, then bowed and cupped his fists towards the old man. Senior, are you the 1000-saint old heavenly king? As soon as he said this, everyone was shocked. Everyone who had heard of this name widened their eyes and stared blankly at the old man. In the entire Taishu dynasty, there was only one person who could be called this, and that was the previous heavenly king of the 1000 Saints' heavenly king residence, one of the 27 heavenly kings' residences. Among the 27 heavenly kings' palaces, there were some who were strong and some who were weak. The difference in strength between the strong and the weak was huge. As for the 1000 Saints' heavenly king residence, it was ranked in the top 3 among the 27 heavenly king residences. Holy Thousand Old Heavenly King was the grandfather of the current Holy Thousand Heavenly King. He was a legendary figure who had lived for countless years. No one could tell how old he was. However, there was one thing that was universally acknowledged, and that was the strength of the 1000 Holy Old Heavenly King. He was one of the top existences in the Taishu dynasty, and was one of the few people who stood at the peak. Some people said that if the 1000 Holy Old Heavenly King residence was still in charge of the 1000 Saints' Heavenly King residence, then the 1000 Saints' Heavenly King residence would not be in the top 3, but first. However, the 1000 Holy Old Heavenly King had not appeared for countless years, and many people thought that he had fallen. Could he have appeared again? Blue Maple's and Wu Fan's eyes widened as they revealed astonished looks. Oh, I didn't expect that after not appearing for so many years, there would still be people who remember an old man like me. The old man smiled slightly, which meant that he agreed with Captain Wu's words. I was fortunate enough to meet the old heavenly king once in the past, and I have never dared to forget it. I didn't expect to see the old heavenly king again today. It is truly a blessing of 3 lifetimes. Captain Wu said respectfully. The old heavenly king smiled and looked at Blue Merchant. I didn't expect that the hero of the generation back then would end up like this. How sad. The 1000 Holy Old Heavenly King sighed. Old Heavenly King, long time no see. How have you been? It's a pity that I can't salute you now. Blue Merchant said. Everyone's eyes flashed. Obviously, Blue Merchant and the 1000 Holy Old Heavenly King knew each other. No need to be so polite. The 1000 Holy Old Heavenly King waved his hand casually and sighed. Back then, one was you and the other was Jingyu. You were the 2 people I thought the most highly of. But now, one has fallen and the other has been crippled. How sad. Everyone was shocked and didn't dare to interrupt. Jingyu was a taboo in the Taishu dynasty, especially in the Taishu sacred capital. No one dared to mention him. Only people like the 1000 Holy Old Heavenly King dared to say that. Blue Merchant lowered his head and didn't say anything. The few of you, Lan Shang has met me once before. Can you let him go? The 1000 Holy Old Heavenly King looked at Captain Wu. Captain Wu hesitated. No. At this moment, Wu Fan shouted again. He cupped his fists at the 1000 Holy Old Heavenly King and said, Old Heavenly King, I respect you because you are my senior. I didn't dare to say anything when you reprimanded me, but Wu Fan pointed at Blue Merchant and said, Blue Merchant killed a few experts from the Imperial Preceptor's residence in the Saint Capital, including a Divine Lord. He has already violated the rules. This rule was set by the previous Saint Emperors. In the Saint Capital, unless it is under certain circumstances, no one is allowed to kill. Senior, Although you have a high status, you can't violate the rules of the Saint Emperors, right? There was a rule in the Taishu sacred capital that no one was allowed to kill. However, it was okay to fight with each other. It was okay to injure or cripple the other party, but no one was allowed to kill. If one wanted to kill someone, they would have to do it under certain circumstances, such as entering the life and death arena. This rule was set by an ancient Saint Emperor many years ago, and it had been in use for so many years. Thousand holy old heavenly king's eyes flashed. Wu Fan was shocked and retreated until he was behind Captain Wu. Thousand holy old heavenly king was too famous. Even his father, the imperial preceptor, had to be polite to him. He was afraid that Thousand holy old heavenly king would kill him in a fit of anger. The rules of the Saint Emperors were useful to ordinary people, but they were useless to people like Thousand holy old heavenly king. Old heavenly king, I have a duty to fulfill. Please don't make things difficult for me. Captain Wu cupped his fists again. He had no intention of letting Blue Merchant go. Old heavenly king, you don't have to make things difficult for me. Let them take me away. I just want to ask old heavenly king to save my daughter. Don't let her fall into their hands. Blue Merchant said. He naturally knew that Thousand holy old heavenly king was not afraid of the rules of the Saint Emperors. However, he still had a bunch of disciples and grand disciples. If Thousand holy old heavenly king forced his way in, he would implicate the Thousand holy heavenly king residents. AI, don't worry. Your daughter will be fine. Thousand holy old heavenly king sighed. Indeed, he had to worry about the safety of the Thousand holy heavenly king residents. Chapter 3201. No, I have to take Lan Ling away too. Wu Fan shouted. What law did that girl break? You want to take her away? Holy old heavenly king asked. She's my fiancée. Of course I have to take her away. Wu Fan bit the bullet and said, Bullshit, since when did Ling become your fiancée? The matter between you and the Lan family has nothing to do with me and Ling. I've had nothing to do with the Lan family for a long time. Blue Merchant shouted. Oh, so you're forcing a deal? How dare you? Holy old heavenly king's eyes flashed and a terrifying aura spread out. Even though he was hiding behind Captain Wu, Wu Fan sat down in midair and almost peed his pants when he was suppressed by the aura. He had a feeling that holy old heavenly king could kill him with just one look. Captain Wu's body trembled and he took a few steps back. His eyes were filled with horror. It was just an aura, but it made him feel like he could not bear it. He knew that the gap between him and holy old heavenly king was too big. Also, what do you plan to do with Blue Merchant after taking him away? Holy old heavenly king looked at Captain Wu. Captain Wu swallowed his saliva and said respectfully, I'll handle it impartially. I'll report it to the Holy Emperor and await his punishment. You'd better do that. I don't want anyone to interfere with the Imperial Guards. Otherwise, I'll go to the Holy Emperor and ask him. Holy old heavenly king glanced at Wu Fan. His meaning was obvious. He hoped that the Imperial Guards would handle the matter impartially and did not want the Imperial Tutor's residence to interfere with Blue Merchant. Don't worry, holy old heavenly king. This will not happen, Captain Wu said hurriedly. His back was drenched in cold sweat. He knew that if he did not handle this matter well, his future would be bleak. Wu Fan's face turned ugly. He had planned to use some underhanded means to kill Blue Merchant. However, it seemed that Captain Wu would not let him do so. Senior, if there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. Captain Wu cupped his fists and gave his subordinates a look. Then he led Blue Merchant away. Wu Fan glared fiercely at Lan Ling before he left with Blue Maple. Senior, please save my father. Lan Ling begged the old heavenly king with tears in her eyes. Don't worry. The Holy Academy of the Great Void Imperial Family is about to open. In the 100 years before and after the opening of the Holy Academy of the Great Void Imperial Family, the Imperial Guards in the Holy Emperor Palace generally won't touch prisoners. I'll think of a way after a while. Let's go. After the old heavenly king finished speaking, he waved his hand and brought Lan Ling back to the place where the Blue Merchant and the others originally lived. Lu Ming naturally had no idea what was happening outside. He wholeheartedly cultivated under the sacred heaven jade annulus, comprehending all kinds of divine powers. Time passed, and in the blink of an eye, he had cultivated for 35 days under the sagely heaven jade wall. His time was up. Lu Ming opened his eyes and ended his cultivation. There was a hint of joy in his eyes. After 35 days of cultivation, he had gained a lot. Originally, he had a total of 3 kinds of divine powers. After awakening the origin divine power factor, he still had 5 kinds of divine powers that were 99% awakened. However, after 35 days of cultivation, the other 5 kinds of divine powers had all broken through and awakened the origin divine power factor. In this way, his 8 kinds of divine powers had all awakened the origin divine power factor, causing his strength to soar. This sacred heaven jade wall is really amazing. It can steal the fortune of heaven and earth. Wouldn't the geniuses of the Bone Sword tribe be super terrifying? Lu Ming thought to himself. If they cultivated under the sacred heaven jade wall every day, wouldn't the people of the Bone Sword tribe be super powerful? However, on second thought, that might not be the case. This was because the sacred heaven jade wall required a large amount of energy to maintain this effect. Also, not everyone would have the same effect as Lu Ming when cultivating under the sacred heaven jade wall. The more talented one was, the better the effect. If one's talent was poor, the effect would naturally be poor. Also, Lu Ming speculated that if the origin divine power factor was awakened too many times, for example, after awakening it twice, the effect would be greatly reduced. Lu Ming had personally verified this point. After awakening all 5 types of divine grade God force, Huang Xiaolong still had 2 days left. In these 2 days, he spent his time comprehending the sovereign's God force. He hoped that he could take another step forward and awaken his origin God force twice. However, the improvement of the sovereign divine power was not particularly shocking. The reason why the other 5 kinds of divine powers improved so much was that they had not been awakened before. Once they were awakened, the effect of comprehending them would be greatly reduced. Otherwise, the sacred heaven jade wall would be too heaven-defying. No matter how strong the Bone Sword tribe was, they would not be able to keep it. Mid-Autumn Moon had 1 more day than Lu Ming. Lu Ming waited quietly. A day passed quickly and Mid-Autumn Moon also finished cultivating. After Mid-Autumn Moon finished cultivating, the two did not stay and left the Bone Sword tribe. On the way, Mid-Autumn Moon, how's your cultivation? Lu Ming asked. My other divine powers have awakened the origin divine power factor. Young master, how about you? Mid-Autumn Moon blinked and asked. All awakened? Good. Lu Ming was overjoyed. Mid-Autumn Moon's divine powers were almost the same as his. This meant that Mid-Autumn Moon's other divine powers had also awakened the origin divine power factor. Same for me. Lu Ming smiled. The two chatted as they walked towards their residence. When they returned to their residence, they saw Lan Ling in a daze. Miss Lan, where's Lan's shoe? Lu Ming asked. Father, he. After being asked by Lu Ming, Lan Ling's big eyes were filled with mist and tears almost fell out. What's wrong with Lan's shoe? Lu Ming's heart trembled. He had a bad feeling. Father, he was taken away by the Imperial Guards. Lan Ling said. As she spoke, tears rolled down her cheeks. At this moment, Lan Ling was no longer the arrogant Lan Ling, but a helpless and weak girl. Taken away by the Imperial Guards? What happened? Lu Ming hurriedly asked. Immediately, Lan Ling told him what happened that day. Blue Maple Wu Fan, damn it. Lu Ming growled, emitting a cold murderous intent. All these years, although he called Blue Merchant Lan Shu, in his heart, he had already regarded him as his teacher. Now, Blue Merchant had encountered such injustice. He was furious and wanted to kill his way to the Imperial Guards and save Blue Merchant. Lu Ming took a few deep breaths to calm himself down. With his current cultivation, if he killed his way to the Imperial Guards, any Imperial Guard would be able to kill him with a slap. Where's the holy old heavenly king? Where is he? I'll pay him a visit. Lu Ming continued to ask. Little guy, are you looking for me? A voice suddenly sounded behind Lu Ming. It was very close. Lu Ming was shocked. There was someone behind him, but he didn't feel it at all. He hurriedly turned around and saw an old man smiling at him. Chapter 3202. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He immediately understood that this was the old Heavenly King. "Greetings, Senior Heavenly King." Lu Ming cupped his fists and bowed. Qiu Moon also bowed together with Lu Ming. "No need to be so polite." The old Heavenly King waved his hand, and a gentle force lifted Lu Ming. Then, the old Heavenly King stared at Lu Ming with bright eyes and nodded. "Not bad, not bad, not bad at all." Lu Ming was a little confused for a moment. "Senior, may I know how to save Lan Shu? If there's anything you need, I'll do my best." Lu Ming asked. "There is a way to save Blue Merchant." The old Heavenly King said. "There is a way? What is it?" Lu Ming, Lan Ling, and Qiu Moon's eyes lit up. "Only you three can do it," the old Heavenly King said. Lu Ming and the other two were puzzled. The three of them were just juniors. Their cultivation base was not high. Compared to the colossus of the Taishu dynasty, they were not worth mentioning. How could they save Blue Merchant? The opportunity to save Blue Merchant is when the Taishu Imperial Sacred Courtyard is held. The old Heavenly King continued to explain, every time the Taishu Imperial Sacred Courtyard is held, those who enter the top 10 will be qualified to establish their own family. However, those who enter the top 3 will not only be qualified to establish their own family, but also can make a request to the Heavenly King. As long as the request is not too harsh, the Heavenly King will usually agree to it. So, as long as one of you enters the top 3 when the Taishu Imperial Sacred Courtyard is held, you can propose to the Heavenly King to release Blue Merchant. This condition is not too harsh. I believe the Heavenly King will agree to it. Enter the top 3. Lu Ming and the other two's eyes lit up, but then dimmed. During this period, they had already seen some terrifying geniuses. There were too many experts. Not to mention the top 3, even if it was the top 10, Lu Ming would feel a lot of pressure. He was not confident. The top 3 were many times more difficult. Lan Ling, in particular, clenched her fists and trembled. She knew very well that even if she had awakened her origin source secret technique, with her strength, she had no hope of entering the top 10, let alone the top 3. She felt hopeless. To be honest, with your current strength, not to mention the top 3, you might not even be able to enter the top 10. The old Heavenly King attacked mercilessly. Top 3, what should we do? There's only a few decades left. Unless I can break through to the Divine King realm in a few decades, I'll have a chance. But how can I do that in a few decades? Lu Ming's mind raced. If he were to cultivate step by step, he would definitely not be able to break through. What should he do? For a moment, Lu Ming had no idea what to do. This old man can give you a chance. At this moment, the old Heavenly King spoke again. What opportunity? Lu Ming and the other two showed a glimmer of hope. A jade bottle appeared in the old Heavenly King's hand and said, "Inside this jade bottle, there's a large formation that this old man has set up. It's very beneficial for the cultivation of the Divine King realm. Go in and cultivate. As for how much you can gain, it depends on your own fortune." Lu Ming and the other two naturally agreed without hesitation. The old Heavenly King's cultivation was unfathomable. The formation that he set up must be extraordinary. However, this old man reminds you that you will have to face extreme pain when you enter the jade bottle. You must be mentally prepared. The old Heavenly King said, "It's okay, a little pain is nothing." Lan Ling clenched her fists. Lu Ming and Qiu Yu had determined looks in their eyes. If you want to gain, you naturally have to pay a price. A little pain was nothing. "Senior, let the two of them go in first. I still have something to do, I'll go in later." At this moment, Lu Ming spoke. According to the old Heavenly King's words, his cultivation might break through if he entered the jade bottle to cultivate. If Lu Ming continued to break through, he would reach the Divine King realm. However, Lu Ming still had 2 types of divine force in his Dantian, the Golden Dragon Divine Force and the Multi-Eyed Divine Force. These 2 types of divine force were not divine-grade divine force. Lu Ming wanted to break through to the Divine King realm with all of his divine-grade divine force. Otherwise, it would be best to disperse these two types of divine force. Once they formed a star nucleus, it would be difficult to change them after breaking through to the divine king realm. For example, Autumn Moon used to have two types of divine force that were not divine-grade divine force. Before she broke through to the divine king realm, she had dispersed them. In any case, after breaking through, he could cultivate other divine-grade divine powers. However, if he broke through with a divine-grade divine power before breaking through to the God-King realm, it would be very difficult for him to find a divine-grade divine power with similar attributes to his own. Lu Ming had two paths in front of him. One was to disperse the multi-eyed divine force and the golden dragon divine force. The other was to find a divine-grade divine force that corresponded to the two types of divine force. After cultivating for so long, it would be a pity to disperse them. Lu Ming planned to find a divine-grade divine force with similar attributes to the two types of divine force. Lu Ming did not find any in the Nine-Ju Heavenly King residence. However, this was the Great Void Holy Capital. There should be a divine-grade divine force with similar attributes. Alright, the two of them can go in first. The old Heavenly King nodded his head in satisfaction. He then pulled out the cap of the jade bottle. From the opening of the jade bottle, a faint divine light spread out. At the same time, a suction force enveloped Autumn Moon and Lan Ling. Autumn Moon and Lan Ling's bodies involuntarily flew towards the opening of the jade bottle. Their bodies became smaller and smaller until they disappeared into the opening of the jade bottle. How much you can gain will depend on yourselves. This is all I can do to help. The old Heavenly King said softly as he closed the jade bottle. Senior, I'll be heading out for a while. I'll be back soon. Lu Ming cupped his fists at the old Heavenly King. He then left his residence and headed towards the largest market in the Great Void Holy Capital. Since the Great Void Holy Capital was so prosperous, the market was also bustling. There were all sorts of treasures available. Lu Ming specifically looked for shops that sold all sorts of divine skills, secret techniques, and divine skills. After inquiring about a few clans, Lu Ming finally found two kinds of mystical techniques. One of them was called the Divine Eye Heaven Incantation, which was a divine-grade divine power similar to the multi-eyed divine power. The second one was called the Primordial Dragon Mantra. The Primordial Dragon Force that was cultivated was also of the divine grade, similar to the Golden Dragon Force. After finding the two types of divine skills, Lu Ming was overjoyed. After flipping through them, Lu Ming memorized the two types of divine skills and returned to his residence. Senior, I'm ready, Lu Ming said. All right, go in. The old Heavenly King took out the jade bottle and pointed it at Lu Ming. Lu Ming felt a suction force acting on him as his body flew towards the opening of the jade bottle. After Lu Ming entered the jade bottle, he felt a strong force pulling him downwards. Soon he landed at the bottom. He looked around and did not see Autumn Moon and Lan Ling. Presumably, they were scattered and not in the same place. Chapter 3203. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew and divine light filled the air, sweeping toward Lu Ming. Divine lights from all directions shrouded Lu Ming in an instant, forming a terrifying wind pressure. Bam! Lu Ming almost fell to his knees from the wind pressure. Pain. Instantly, Lu Ming felt a tearing pain all over his body. His skin, muscles, and bones felt like they were about to be torn apart by the wind. Endless pain drowned him. Block it, Lu Ming roared and circulated his divine power with all his might. The 10 divine power vortexes in his body spun rapidly. 10 types of divine power gushed out and covered his body, resisting the wind pressure from the outside world. However, the divine power vibrated and was constantly being worn down. Lu Ming then used the 9 layers of crimson gold armor and ice chains, but they were all useless. They were completely worn down. The wind pressure continued to act on him. Endless pain came. Lu Ming growled. He could only stabilize his mind and resist the endless pain. But in the next moment, Lu Ming made a discovery. As he resisted, there was a strange energy in the surroundings that seeped into his body and merged with his divine power. It made his divine body and divine power slowly strengthen. The wind pressure formed by the divine light could even seep into the depths of his divine power and temper his cyclone. As a result, the divine power in the cyclone continued to condense, becoming more and more solid. The cyclone was slowly approaching the star core. Although this kind of improvement was not very fast, it was many times faster than cultivating step by step outside. Moreover, it was improving all the time. This kind of improvement could be seen and felt. Over time, the rate of improvement would be astonishing. Just like that, Lu Ming endured it and tempered himself in this kind of pain. The jade bottle was a furnace, and Lu Ming was like a weapon being tempered. Not only him, but Lan Ling was also going through the same thing in the autumn moon. Day after day, time flew by quickly. Later, Lu Ming found that not only could his divine body and divine power be tempered, but even his soul was being tempered. Although the improvement was far less than the divine body and divine power. However, every bit of improvement in the soul was rare and precious. First, I'll cultivate the divine eye heaven art and the Archean dragon mantra. Lu Ming's heart moved. He used these two divine techniques to cultivate these two divine powers with the help of the external tempering. Lu Ming only needed to cultivate the first level. Lu Ming was very familiar with the cultivation of divine techniques. Not long after, he cultivated the divine power of two types of divine-grade divine techniques. After a while, Lu Ming ignited the divine fire and integrated the multi-eyed divine power and the golden dragon divine power into the divine fire. After the fusion, the two divine powers began to strengthen these two divine powers. In such an environment, these two divine powers improved very quickly. After a few years, these two divine powers grew to the half-step God-King realm. They were the same as other divine powers, but they did not awaken their divine power origin factor. When these two divine powers reached the half-step God-King realm, the next step was to break through to the God-King realm. Just like that, day after day, year after year passed. In the blink of an eye, Lu Ming had cultivated here for 30 years. Over the past 30 years, Lu Ming cultivated day and night, enduring the pain all the time. His body, including his soul, seemed to have been reforged and looked brand new. 30 years of perseverance, day after day, was exchanged for great gains. In his dantian, the 10 divine power vortexes were condensed to the extreme. They emitted a sparkling light like 10 suns. Boom! Suddenly, the 10 divine power vortexes let out a rumbling sound, and then a powerful energy burst out, forming circular shockwaves that rushed out in all directions. Lu Ming's body surged with a powerful aura. This was the aura of a god-king. He broke through. After 30 years of arduous cultivation, the 10 types of divine powers in Lu Ming's dantian had finally transformed from divine power vortexes into star cores. The 10 star cores floated in his dantian, shining brightly. At the same time, from all directions, waves of powerful energy converged towards Lu Ming. In this jade bottle, other than the array, there was an endless stream of energy. These energies poured into Lu Ming's body and were refined, turning into divine power. In his dantian, the 10 star cores became more solid. Lu Ming's realm also slowly stabilized. Lu Ming did not stop. He continued to cultivate. Time passed year after year. After an unknown amount of time, a suction force suddenly acted on Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming involuntarily flew upwards. In the next moment, the surroundings changed. Lu Ming looked around and found that he had returned to the courtyard where Blue Merchant had lived. Beside him, Autumn Moon and Lan Ling were also there. The two of them were also looking around. All right, there are still 3 months before the Great Void Imperial Academy opens. You should familiarize yourselves with your current realms. An old voice sounded. It was old Heavenly King Qian Sheng. Thank you, Holy Thousand King. Lu Ming cupped his fists in gratitude. This time he had gained a lot. The 10 divine grade divine powers in his body had all transformed into star cores. He had entered the God King realm. Moreover, his cultivation had reached the peak of the first heaven of the God King realm. Compared to before his breakthrough, his divine power was much stronger. His strength had skyrocketed. You're welcome. Familiarize yourselves with your new realms. Holy Thousand King waved his hand and kept the jade bottle. In the next moment, he disappeared. He was really elusive. How's your progress? Lu Ming looked at Autumn Moon and Lan Ling. Young master, I've broken through. Autumn Moon's crisp voice sounded. Then, a powerful aura spread out from her body. Third heaven of the God King realm. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Autumn Moon's progress was amazing. Before entering the jade bottle, Autumn Moon's cultivation base had just reached the second heaven of the God King realm. Now, she had reached the third heaven of the God King realm. She was not far from the fourth heaven of the God King realm. One should know that Autumn Moon had mastered 8 divine-grade divine powers. It would be difficult for her to improve. This was definitely a big gain. In addition, Autumn Moon had mastered the God-killing light and the God's blade. This time, when the Great Void Imperial Academy opened, she would definitely give everyone a big surprise. Boom! On the other side, Lan Ling's body also emitted a powerful aura. Third heaven of the God King realm. Lan Ling had also broken through to the third heaven of the God King realm. She had been in the first heaven of the God King realm before, but now she had broken through twice. However, it was normal. Lan Ling had only cultivated one type of divine power. It was much easier for her to break through compared to Lu Ming and Autumn Moon. It was normal for her to break through to the third heaven of the God King realm. Lu Ming, let's exchange some pointers. This time I will defeat you. Lan Ling's eyes were bright as she looked at Lu Ming. Her cultivation base had reached the third heaven of the God King realm, and she had awakened the origin secret technique. This had boosted Lan Ling's confidence. All right, let's exchange some pointers. Lu Ming smiled. Chapter 3204. This time, the 3 of them had experienced a surge in their cultivation, but they didn't have the time to experience it properly. It was inevitable that they wouldn't be able to use it smoothly. That was why Holy Old Heavenly King had released them a few months earlier to let them experience it properly. Sparring with each other would undoubtedly allow them to control their own strength better and faster. Lan Ling's body emitted a powerful aura as she fully released her third-layer Divine King Realm cultivation. Clang! The sound of a sword rang out as Lan Ling drew her sword. A dazzling sword light slashed towards Lu Ming. Its speed and power were shocking. A long spear appeared in Lu Ming's hand as he circulated the 10 types of divine power in his body. It surged towards the long spear like floodwaters. At the same time, Lu Ming activated the battle character secret art to quadruple his fighting strength and swept out his spear. Clang! The long spear and the sword light collided, causing a violent explosion. Then, Lan Ling's sword light shook violently as her body was pushed back. How is your strength so strong? Lan Ling was shocked. In the Divine King realm, the gap between each layer was huge. She was 2 layers higher than Lu Ming, but Lu Ming didn't use his origin secret technique. In a head-on clash, she was no match for him. You're not strong enough. Lu Ming shook his head. Take this. Lan Ling snorted. A ray of divine light appeared in her hand, emitting an ancient fluctuation. It merged with the battle sword in her hand. Origin's secret technique? Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He didn't expect Lan Ling to have also awakened her Origin's secret technique. Lan Ling thrust her sword towards Lu Ming again. After using her Origin's secret technique, the power of Lan Ling's sword soared. The God's Gate appeared above Lu Ming's head and suppressed Lan Ling. The God's Gate collided with Lan Ling's sword light. The result was the same as before. Lan Ling was pushed back by Lu Ming. Again! Lan Ling gritted her teeth and charged towards Lu Ming again. The 2 of them exchanged a few moves. Lan Ling was completely at a disadvantage. She wasn't Lu Ming's opponent. Although Lan Ling was at the 3rd layer Divine King realm, she had only awakened her Origin Divine Power's Origin secret technique. On the other hand, Lu Ming had mastered 10 types of divine powers. 8 of them had awakened the Origin Divine Power factor. In addition, he had triggered the Battle Word Sutra to increase his combat power by 4 times. Although the difference between the Divine King Realm and King Realm Divine King Secret King Realm's Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming could make use of these advantages to close the gap of 2 cultivation levels. Of course, if Lan Ling's divine power factor had been awakened twice, it would be difficult for Lu Ming to equalize the difference. he might have to use the ancient god body. All in all, Lan Ling's strength had increased a lot. With her current fighting strength, she could kill an ordinary 4th-layer Divine King Realm warrior. If it was before Lu Ming had broken through to the King Realm, it would have been difficult for him to deal with her. But now, it was easy for him. After a dozen moves, Lan Ling's Origin Secret Technique had exhausted her Origin Secret Technique. She stopped the fight. Then, Lu Ming and Chiu Moon exchanged moves. Chiu Moon had reached the 3rd-layer Divine King Realm. She was truly terrifying. The two of them had exchanged dozens of moves, but there was no clear winner. Of course, the two of them were holding back. They didn't use their trump cards. Lu Ming was surprised by Chiu Moon's strength. He estimated that even if he used his trump cards, he wouldn't be able to defeat Chiu Moon. Then, the three of them took turns to exchange moves. Soon, they were able to control their Origin Secret Technique and their Origin Secret Technique. At this time, there was still a month before the opening of the Great Void Imperial Academy. At this time, Lu Ming had another great breakthrough. Lu Ming had awakened the Origin Secret Technique of the Sovereign Secret Technique. The Origin Secret Technique had awakened a second time. Originally, the Origin Secret Technique of the Sovereign Secret Technique had been at the peak of the first awakening for many years. This time, Lu Ming's cultivation had increased sharply. He had entered the King Realm, and his understanding of the various Origin Secret Techniques had increased by a large margin. In addition, he had become more familiar with the usage of his Origin Secret Technique. Naturally, the Sovereign Secret Technique had awakened a second time. All of this happened naturally. The second awakening of the Sovereign Secret Technique had undoubtedly raised Lu Ming's fighting strength to another level. Top 3. Lu Ming clenched his fists. His gaze was resolute. This time, he had to enter the top 3 and rescue Blue Merchant. On this day, the three of them did not continue to spar. Instead, they left their residence and went out for a walk. They wanted to find out more about the current situation. Of course, the main point was to find out which Origin Secret Technique of the current Origin Secret Technique had the most potential to enter the top 10. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will be victorious. As soon as they went out, they realized that the Great Void Holy City had become even more lively. The Great Void Holy City was vast and its surface area was shocking. However, walking on the streets still felt like there was a sea of people. Various races walked on the streets. It was very lively. Soon, they heard a lot of useful information. This was because countless people were guessing which Origin Secret Technique of the Sovereign Secret Technique would enter the top 10 this time. This time, the Origin Secret Technique of the Sovereign Secret Technique has gathered. However, the ones most likely to enter the top 10 are still the 10 talents of the Holy Capital. That's right. In the past, the 10 talents of the Holy Capital had the highest chance of entering the top 10. Of course, there are exceptions. This time, there are definitely exceptions. This is because the various Heavenly King Palaces have also produced many terrifying Origin Secret Techniques. For example, the Holy Maiden of the Thousand Saints Heavenly King Palace, Qian Shengxian. She is extremely talented and her combat strength is shocking. She has a chance of entering the top 10. There is also the Unparalleled Heavenly King Palace, which is ranked first among the 27 Heavenly King Palaces. They have also produced a terrifying Origin Secret Technique. He is definitely not weaker than Qian Shengxian. What is even more shocking is that he is from the Great Zhou Heavenly King Palace. Haven't you heard of the Unparalleled Swordsman, Di Jinni? This person was born in a small world. However, he killed his way up and displayed his unparalleled talent. It is said that in that small world, this person is known as the Shocking Sword Emperor. This shows how powerful he is. Don't forget about another person. That is the War God family of the Nine Blades Heavenly King Palace. It is said that this generation of the War God family has produced a terrifying person. He is said to be the most talented person in the history of the War God family. He is known as the reincarnation of the War God family. He is going to lead the War God family to its former glory. He is extremely terrifying. Lu Ming and the other two walked around and heard information about the terrifying origin secret technique of the talents of the Heavenly King Palace. Di Jenny? Lu Ming's eyes flashed. Among all the origin secret techniques, he was the most interested in this person. This was because, like him, Di Jenny had also killed his way out of a small world. I wonder which one of them is the white-haired youth that we met back then? Lu Ming thought of the white-haired youth that he had met in the Bone Sword tribe's secret realm. That white-haired youth had terrifying combat strength. Moreover, he had mastered the origin source ancient characters. His strength was unfathomable and he was definitely someone who could enter the top 10. The three of them walked around and collected the records of the origin secret techniques of the talents that people thought highly of. They planned to study them. Chapter 3205. Big news, big news. The number 1 prodigy of the war god family, Chu Qingkong, is challenging one of the 10 heroes of the holy capital, Deadly Spear Yuan Jie. Suddenly, a piece of news blew up in the streets. What? Chu Qingkong is challenging Deadly Spear Yuan Jie? Is this for real? Countless people were shocked. Chu Qingkong was the strongest prodigy of the war god family. He was known as the man who had surpassed the war god. And Deadly Spear Yuan Jie was one of the 10 heroes of the holy capital. The core area of the Taishu dynasty was vast. It was far above the various heavenly kings and had given birth to countless prodigies. Among the countless prodigies, those who could be ranked as one of the 10 heroes were definitely terrifying existences. The two of them were going to fight in advance. It was hard not to cause a commotion. But where is their challenge? When is it? In half a day at the Qilin battle stage. In half a day. Quick, there's not much time left. Let's go to the Qilin battle stage. Let's go. Instantly, countless people swarmed towards the Qilin battle stage. The transportation arrays to the Qilin battle stage were also full. Lu Ming, Autumn Moon, and Lan Ling also headed towards the Qilin battle stage. Two prodigies who were expected to enter the top 10 would fight in advance. This was a good opportunity to see each other's strength and compare it with their own. How could they miss it? When the three of them finally arrived at the Qilin battle stage, they realized that it was already packed with people. Countless people were surrounding a vast fighting ring. Around the battle stage, there were 4 huge Qilin statues guarding the 4 directions. This battle platform was very famous in the great illusionary divine region. It was said that even godly lords could fight on it without damaging the battle platform at all. Ordinary people who wanted to fight on this battle stage were not qualified. The battle stage would not open and was covered by a large array. However, with Chu Qingkong and Yuan Jie's fame, they were still qualified to fight on this battle stage. Who do you think is stronger between Chu Qingkong and Yuan Jie? Many people were waiting and chatting as they guessed the strength of the two. It's hard to say. However, I have seen Yuan Jie in action. His spear is deadly and his combat strength is terrifying. Even if he is a divine king, it's a piece of cake for him to kill someone of a higher realm than him. I wonder how powerful Chu Qingkong is. Chu Qingkong is known as the strongest genius in the history of the War God clan. He should not be weak, right? I've never seen him in action. Everything is fake. Who doesn't know how to brag? That's true. There was a lot of discussion at the scene. Some people favored Yuan Jie, while others favored Chu Qingkong. Look, that's the Thousand Sage proclamation from the Thousand Sage Heavenly King Manor. Suddenly, someone looked in a certain direction. There was a woman with a long skirt that fluttered in the wind. Her beauty was unparalleled, and her appearance was not inferior to Autumn Moon or Lan Ling. The peerless goddess, Xian Shengxian, was a very popular genius. Also, the heaven-startling sword emperor, Di Jenny. Another person exclaimed. In another direction, a silver-haired young man stood in the air, his white robes fluttering in the wind. It's him. He's Di Jenny. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. This young man was the white-haired young man that he had met in the Bone Sword tribe's secret territory. He was the one who controlled the origin ancient characters. It turned out that this person was Di Jenny. Like Lu Ming, he was a peerless genius from a pocket dimension. Following that, people kept exclaiming because they recognized many peerless geniuses. Several of the 10 prodigies of the holy capital had come. Obviously, these people were very concerned about Chu Qingkong and Yuan Jie's strength and regarded them as potential opponents. Time flew by quickly. Yuan Jie is here. Suddenly, someone shouted. Everyone looked in a certain direction. In the sky, a black-robed young man with a long spear on his back walked over step by step. This person was Deadly Spear Yuan Jie. Yuan Jie's eyes were sharp, and his body emitted a terrifying killing intent that was as cold as a knife. Wherever he passed, the crowd automatically made a path for him. Open the battle stage. A loud roar reverberated throughout the scene. A burly man in charge of guarding the Qilin battle stage began to control the array. The array lit up and the array that enveloped the Qilin battle stage was opened. Yuan Jie stepped out and landed on the Qilin battle stage. "Ha Yuan Jie, you're right on time." At this moment, a loud laugh came from another direction. Another young man walked over. This young man was extremely burly and wore a black armor. A domineering aura filled the air. Chu Qingkong. Everyone knew that Chu Qingkong had arrived. Chu Qingkong walked in the air and landed on the Qilin battle stage, facing Yuan Jie. "You're the only one among the 10 prodigies who uses a spear. Coincidentally, I also use a spear. Everyone is comparing the two of us. I'd like to know how strong your spear technique is." Chu Qingkong spoke in a loud and domineering voice. "He'll take your life," Yuan Jie said coldly, and his killing intent intensified. "Haha, if you can take my life, I can only blame myself for not being skilled enough. But to be frank, you don't have the ability to do so." Chu Qingkong smiled, looking very confident. "Whether I have the ability or not, we'll know in a battle." Yuan Jie's voice was still cold. As soon as he finished speaking, a violent aura erupted from his body. A spear light soared into the sky and pierced through the sky. The 4 Qilin statues around the Qilin battle stage roared. Then, a light barrier spread out and covered the Qilin battle stage. In this way, no matter how fierce the battle was inside, the energy would not leak out. The long spear on Yuan Jie's back flew out. He held it in his hand and pointed it at Chu Qingkong. "Make your move." Chu Qingkong's eyes were filled with a strong battle intent. A long spear appeared in his hand and a powerful aura was released. Peak of the 3rd layer of the King God realm. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. Chu Qingkong and Yuan Jie's cultivation were both at the peak of the 3rd layer of the King God realm. They had not broken through to the 4th layer of the King God realm. There was a big gap between the 3rd layer of the King God realm and the 4th layer of the King God realm. It seemed like many of the top geniuses were at the 3rd layer of the King God realm. Seeing this, Lu Ming heaved a sigh of relief. These people's cultivation was not too strong. Lu Ming had a higher chance of winning. If these people's cultivation had reached the 4th layer of the King God realm or the 5th layer of the King God realm, coupled with their talents, it would be too terrifying. No matter how strong Lu Ming was, he would not be a match for them. However, it made sense. Those who were able to participate in the Great Void Imperial Family's Sacred Institute were not too old. The older ones had already entered the Great Void Imperial Family's Sacred Institute. Therefore, these people's cultivation would not be too high. Boom! Chu Qingkong and Yuan Jie's auras clashed in the air, resulting in a loud explosion. Suddenly, the two of them moved at the same time and charged at each other. The crowd could only see 2 spear lights rushing at each other. They were so fast that it was hard to see them clearly. Chapter 3206. The 2 spear lights collided with each other, then retreated and continued to charge at each other. Clang, clang, clang. Dense sounds of collisions echoed throughout the entire area, and the rumbling continued. In an instant, the two of them had exchanged dozens of blows. Then, both of them retreated and stood in the air. They were evenly matched. The spectators held their breaths in concentration. They all knew that the exchange just now was only a test between the two, and they did not use their full strength. What followed next was the real battle between the two of them. "Deadly 18 spears?" Yuan Jie said in a cold voice. An ancient and desolate aura emanated from his body. That was the aura of the Origin Divine Power Factor, and it was extremely dense. Second awakening of the origin divine power factor. Lu Ming could tell at a glance. This was within Lu Ming's expectations. At this level of cultivation, it was far too difficult to awaken the divine power origin factor a third time. It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Lu Ming didn't know if any of the geniuses had awakened their divine powers 3 times. Even if there were, it would be extremely rare. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, spear light bloomed in Yuan Jie's hand. Streaks of pitch-black spear shadows shot toward Chu Chengkong with terrifying killing intent. Fast, it was extremely fast. The life-seizing spear was known as the life-seizing spear. Its greatest power was its speed. Life-reaping spear. Interesting. War God strike. Chu Chengkong said coldly. The armor on his body emitted a dazzling light. As he waved his spear, a huge war god appeared in the sky. This war god was riding on a warhorse. The warhorse stepped into the air and swept its huge spear horizontally, blocking Yuan Jie's spear shadow. There was no doubt that Chu Chengkong's divine power had also undergone a second awakening. The two of them engaged in an intense battle, but for a time, they were still tied. There's no need to test him. Let's go all out and not waste time. Chu Chengkong stepped forward and clenched his fist in the air. The spear in his hand disappeared and was replaced by another ancient stone spear. Tyrant God's spear. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. This was Chu Chengkong's secret skill of origin, which was exactly the same as Lu Ming's secret skill of origin. It was also the tyrannical God's spear. Chu Chengkong's aura became even more violent as soon as he used the secret skill of origin. Boom! The enormous spear light pressed down on Yuan Jie. Life-steal flash. Yuan Jie let out a long howl. His body began to flicker rapidly. Every time he flickered, a ray of spear light would be thrust at Chu Chengkong. Origin Source Secret Technique. This was also an Origin Source secret technique that belonged to Yuan Jie. This was their true strength. At the peak of the third sky of King God Realm, the god power of the origin had awakened for the second time, and he had awakened the secret technique of the origin. This kind of competence was enough to crush the other geniuses easily. Unending river of spear Dao. Chu Chengkong waved his spear and a long river appeared around him, surrounding him. This long river was actually completely composed of endless spear lights. War God strike. With a single glance, Lu Ming could tell that this was a move from the War God strike. It was extremely powerful. With Lu Ming's current comprehension of the War God strike, he was still unable to use this move. Chu Chengkong and Yuan Jie were both using their best moves. The intense battle dazzled the eyes of the onlookers. How terrifying! This kind of combat strength is enough to kill an ordinary fifth sky of King God Realm expert. Indeed, a King God Realm expert can kill an opponent 2 levels higher than him. How terrifying! Many people were discussing in astonishment. The two of them continued to exchange dozens of blows, but there was still no clear winner. Yuan Jie, is this all you've got? Then you'll be defeated. Suddenly, Chu Chengkong let out a long howl. His body swelled rapidly, turning into a giant that was a few hundred meters tall. His aura was obviously stronger than before. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. This was a powerful secret technique. It was not the ancient god body, but it was similar to the ancient god body. It could increase one's strength by leaps and bounds. Boom! Chu Chengkong used this secret technique. With a thrust of his spear, Yuan Jie's spear lights were shattered. Yuan Jie's body shook violently and he was forced to retreat. Yuan Jie was at a disadvantage. After gaining the upper hand, Chu Chengkong launched a torrential attack. After more than 10 blows, Yuan Jie finally gave in. His body crashed into the light shield at the edge of the fighting ring. He spat out mouthfuls of blood and his aura weakened. Defeated, Yuan Jie, one of the 10 heroes of the Holy Capital, was defeated by Chu Chengkong. Yuan Jie, your strength is only SOSO. I won't kill you today. Get lost. Chu Chengkong waved his hand in a domineering manner. Yuan Jie's face turned ugly. At this moment, the array of the fighting ring opened. Yuan Jie rose into the air and left the place. Yuan Jie was defeated. What a surprise! Although Yuan Jie is ranked at the bottom of the 10 heroes, he was defeated by Chu Qingkong. Chu Qingkong is really terrifying. No wonder he's the strongest supreme talent in the history of the War God clan. With his strength, he should be able to make it to the top 3. It's possible. I just don't know how strong the other supreme talents are. I have a feeling that this battle will be very exciting. Many people were discussing. Among the crowd, some powerful supreme talents, such as Xian Shengxian and the other 10 heroes, had a solemn look in their eyes. Only Di Jinny looked calm. "Let's go," Lu Ming said and left with Qiu Autumn Moon and Lan Ling. After watching the battle between Yuan Jie and Chu Qingkong, Lu Ming had a rough idea of his strength. After returning to their residence, the three of them continued to cultivate while waiting for the opening of the Great Void Imperial Academy. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. The day of the opening of the Great Void Imperial Academy had finally arrived. Rumble. On this day, a continent appeared in the sky out of thin air. Yes, a platform appeared in the sky. It was so big that it really looked like a continent. Countless people rose into the sky and flew toward the continent. That was because the location of the opening of the Great Void Imperial Academy was on this continent. Lu Ming, Qiu Autumn Moon, and Lan Ling flew to the continent. The continent was very flat and boundless. It was so huge that it could accommodate billions of living beings at the same time. There were many armored soldiers guarding the 4 corners of the continent. They were the experts of the Imperial Guards. They blocked everyone outside. There was a large empty space in the middle. The supreme talents who are participating in the opening of the Great Void Imperial Academy can enter the center. The spectators can stay outside. Those who violate the rules will be punished by military law. In the sky, a burly man in armor spoke. His voice spread throughout the area and made many people's hearts beat faster. He was a general of the Imperial Guards. His strength was extremely terrifying. No one dared to violate the rules because that would be courting death. Immediately, the young supreme talents flew out from the crowd and toward the center area. "Look, that's Qian Shengxian. And Di Jinny. And Chu Qingkong. Ah, Chu Qingkong, I love you." Many infatuated girls shouted excitedly when they saw Chu Qingkong. After the last battle, Chu Qingkong's popularity had skyrocketed. Many people thought that Chu Qingkong would definitely enter the top 10 or even the top 3. Chapter 3207. And Su Weifan, more and more people screamed. The screams at the scene grew louder and louder. Many girls were screaming with tears and snot running down their faces. Su Weya and Yijifan were the most outstanding of the 10 heroes of the Holy Capital. They were considered to be in the top 3. These geniuses were all dragons among men. They were talented and handsome. Most importantly, they had strong backgrounds. Every one of them had countless supporters and fans. "He's really popular." Lu Ming was speechless. After this battle, young master will definitely be more popular and have more supporters. Qiu Yu said with a smile. "I don't need that many supporters. I only need you as my supporter." Lu Ming said to Qiu Yu. This scene caused Lan Ling to feel extremely displeased. She let out a cold snort, took a step forward and flew out. Lu Ming and Qiu Yu smiled at each other and flew out as well. One by one, the young elites flew to the center of the platform. There were so many of them that no one knew how many there were. This is too many." Lu Ming was speechless. Lu Ming didn't know how many people there were, but he estimated that there were at least 10 million. Yes, 10 million. The number of participants was truly terrifying. It's normal for there to be so many people. The Taishu Royal Sacred Institute is the sacred place for all the young cultivators of the Taishu dynasty. The elites of the 27 Heavenly Lord mansions, the General's mansions, and the Marquis mansions will all participate. Plus, countless elites of the Taishu dynasty will gather. Lan Ling said. Lu Ming nodded. The Taishu dynasty's territory was too vast. Although there were many people, some of them were still eye-catching in the sea of people. For example, Qian Shengxian of the 10 talents of the Saint Capital and the strongest elite from the Wushuang mansion, Shuihen. There were also Di Jinny and Chu Qingkong. These people stood in the crowd while the others stayed far away from them, not daring to approach them. As for Lu Ming, he was submerged in the vast sea of people and was completely inconspicuous. After half an hour, no more young geniuses flew out. Countless geniuses sized each other up. Next, they would all be competitors. Of course, most of the gazes were still on the few people who attracted the most attention. The sage emperor has arrived. Suddenly, a voice sounded from the sky and entered everyone's ears. The scene suddenly quieted down. It became silent. Roar, roar, roar. In the distance, dragon roars could be heard. Then, everyone saw 9 divine dragons pulling a war chariot over. Each of the divine dragons was extremely huge. They were tens of thousands of feet long, and their auras were extremely dense. 6-clawed divine dragons, and they are all 6-clawed divine dragons that have reached the divine lord realm. Sensing the 9 divine dragons pulling the carriage, Lu Ming's pupils contracted. These 9 divine dragons all had 6 claws on their abdomens. Each one's aura was unfathomably deep. They were shockingly all divine lord realm existences. On the chariot behind the 9 divine dragons sat an emperor. This was the ruler of the Taishu dynasty, the current sage emperor. The sage emperor looked to be in his 60s, and his hair was white. Given the cultivation of the sage emperor, if he looked to be in his 60s, his actual age was probably shockingly old. Just by sitting there casually, the sage emperor exuded endless majesty. Behind the sage emperor were the ministers of the Taishu sacred emperor. They were all the higher-ups of the Taishu dynasty, such as the state teacher, the current crown prince, the various princes. Of course, Lu Ming didn't know any of them. Greetings, sage emperor. Countless people bowed to the sage emperor. Rise. The sage emperor waved his hand and said, "The time has come. Let's begin. The rules are the same as before. Those who enter the top 10 can establish their own families. Those who enter the top 3 can make a request of me." The sage emperor's words were very concise. Then, a middle-aged man in his 50s stepped out. "It's the state teacher." Many youths whispered, "State teacher?" Lu Ming's eyes flashed. This person was the state teacher, the teacher of the current crown prince and a powerful figure in the Taishu dynasty. Because of Wu Fan, Lu Ming would most likely be on the opposite side of this person. Moreover, the biggest suspect in Jing Yu's death was the crown prince. If that was really the case, Lu Ming and this person would be enemies in the future. Therefore, Lu Ming couldn't help but observe for a while. The state teacher looked very majestic, but there was no pressure on him at all. He stood there like an ordinary person. Lu Ming knew that his cultivation was too far away from the state teacher, which was why he felt that way. "I will be the host of this meeting. This meeting of the Sacred Academy will be divided into 4 rounds, stepping on the Milky Way, comprehending Shenhuang, striking the bell and stabilizing the divine throne." The state teacher's voice resounded throughout the hall. Stepping on the Milky Way, comprehending Shenhuang, striking the bell and stabilizing the divine throne. Many people murmured and pondered about the meaning of these 4 sentences. At this moment, the state teacher took a step forward and went to the depths of the sky. He waved his hand and his palm emitted a bright light. Then, a Milky Way appeared out of thin air. The Milky Way ran through the starry sky. It was vast and there seemed to be stars in it. The first round is to cross the Milky Way. As long as you can cross the Milky Way successfully, you will pass. "Let's begin," the state teacher announced. "So it's that simple. Let's go. Let's go." Suddenly, many figures rushed into the sky. Tens of millions of different creatures rose into the sky. The scene was extremely spectacular. In a flash, many people came to the other side of the Milky Way and then rushed into it. When these people rushed into the Milky Way, their bodies trembled violently. Some of them screamed and couldn't stabilize their bodies. They flew downstream. It seemed that there was a powerful force in the core of the planet that was constantly attacking those who entered the Milky Way. Fortunately, those people were only swept away and were not seriously injured. However, some people managed to block it and rushed forward quickly to the other side of the Milky Way. Go, go, go! More young people rushed into the Milky Way. Among them, Some people were particularly eye-catching. For example, the 10 heroes of the Holy Capital, Di Jinni, Chu Chengkong, Qian Shengxian, and the others turned into streaks of light and flew forward at an astonishing speed. It seemed that the power of the Milky Way didn't affect them at all. Soon, they flew across half of the Milky Way. Lu Ming, Autumn Moon, and Lan Ling were also about to fly toward the Milky Way. However, Lu Ming felt a few cold murderous intents sweeping toward him from time to time. Lu Ming looked around and noticed some people. A few young men in golden robes glanced at Lu Ming coldly. Without thinking, Lu Ming knew that they were from the Jin family. There were also a few young men in black robes. They looked at Lu Ming unkindly from time to time. Judging by their auras, they should be from the abysmal heavenly king residence. Humph, let him go now. I'll deal with him later. Let's cross the Milky Way first. A tall young man from the Jin family said coldly. This person was one of the 4 heroes of the Jin family. He was an extremely powerful existence. Chapter 3208. The 4 most outstanding geniuses of the younger generation of the Jin clan were called the 4 heroes of the Jin clan. This title was imitated by the 10 heroes of the Holy Capital. However, the tragedy was that the other 3 heroes of the 4 heroes of the Jin clan had all died at the hands of Lu Ming. Now, only one of the 4 heroes of the Jin clan was left. It was the one in front of them, Jin Dun. Jin Dun was the strongest of the 4 heroes of the Jin clan. Previously, he had been training outside with the goal of shocking everyone when the Great Void Imperial Family's Sacred Academy opened. When he heard about the atrocities that Lu Ming had committed against the Jin clan, he was furious and swore to kill Lu Ming to avenge the other 3 heroes of the Jin clan. However, now was not the time for revenge. There would be plenty of opportunities in the future. After casting a few cold glances at Lu Ming, the few members of the Jin family flew toward the galaxy. Lu Ming smiled faintly. With his current cultivation, he could not be bothered with the small fries of the Jin clan. Their figures moved, and they also charged toward the galaxy. Once Lu Ming entered the galaxy, he felt a strong force hitting him. It was from the upper reaches of the galaxy. It was like a raging wave. The force was shocking. However, this force was nothing to Lu Ming now. He covered his body with divine power and isolated himself from the outside force. He quickly flew forward. On the autumn moon, Lan Ling easily blocked this force and flew forward. Before they were halfway there, the 10 heroes of the Holy Capital, Xian of 1,000 Shengxian, Emperor Jinni, and the rest had already flown to the other side and successfully crossed the galaxy. However, Lu Ming was not in a hurry. This was only the first stage. Only by walking to the end could he have the last laugh. Give me a hand. I don't want to be eliminated. No, I can't fail in the first stage. Some of the youths roared and charged forward with all their might. However, they couldn't resist the power at all and were swept down into the lower reaches of the galaxy. Some people came out from the lower reaches of the galaxy and ran back. However, the result was the same. They were swept away for the second time. Only a small number of people were able to resist that power and keep moving forward. Lu Ming, Mid-Autumn Moon, and Lan Ling were very relaxed. Moments later, they had successfully crossed the Milky Way. Their speed was neither slow nor fast. Many people were still struggling. Some people were fast while others were slow. They waited quietly. Some of the slowest people took 3 days to cross the Milky Way. At this point, the first round had ended. Lu Ming glanced over and was secretly speechless. In this round, at least 90% of the people were eliminated. There were originally tens of millions of them, but at least 9 million were eliminated in an instant, leaving only a little over 1 million. Lu Ming finally understood why they had to use this method. There were simply too many geniuses who had signed up for this competition. If they were to use a one-on-one competition, who knew how long it would take? Using this method, those with weak cultivation and insufficient strength could be eliminated very quickly. Those who didn't pass the Star River will be eliminated. Leave the central area immediately and go outside. The Imperial Preceptor gave the order. Those who were eliminated sighed, but they didn't dare to disobey the Imperial Preceptor's order. They could only fly outside. They were originally participants, but now they were just bystanders. When all the eliminated people left the central area, the Imperial Preceptor waved his hand and the Milky Way in the sky disappeared. Then, a mirror appeared in the Imperial Preceptor's hand. The mirror flew out and rapidly expanded. Soon, it turned into a huge mirror and floated in the air. One could see that there were countless small plates on the mirror. In the small plates, there was a round bead the size of an egg. The round beads in these small plates are the seed of black yellow. This round is called enlightenment of black yellow. As the name suggests, it's to comprehend the black yellow. Go up and grab the seed of black yellow. You'll enter a mysterious space. Use your imagination to your heart's content and comprehend whatever you can. Finally, as long as you can make the seed of black yellow germinate, you'll pass. Of course, you only have half a month, the Imperial Preceptor announced. Then he waved his hand and signaled the start of the competition. Everyone flew up the mirror. There were countless small plates on it. Lu Ming and the others randomly chose a small plate. Lu Ming sat cross-legged beside a small plate and reached out to grab the seed of black yellow. Suddenly, Lu Ming's vision turned black. In the next moment, Lu Ming found himself in a sealed space. The space was not big. It was less than 10 meters in length, width, and height. In the space, there were wisps of chi of black-yellow floating around. Looks like this stage tests one's perception and imagination. Lu Ming carefully looked at the chi of black-yellow in front of him and began to comprehend. Time passed day by day. Lu Ming was still trying to comprehend. Outside, countless people's eyes were fixed on the mirrors and the geniuses. They saw that all the elites were holding the seed of black-yellow and were motionless. We have to pass this round. We have to pass this round. This time, someone from the general's residence must enter the Great Void Imperial Sacred Academy. This time we have to pass. Many onlookers watched nervously. There were countless people who came from all over the place. The various Heavenly Kings' residences, the Marquis residences, the general's residences, and many other forces came to watch. For example, the 9 Extinction Heavenly Kings' residence, the 9 Extinction Heavenly King, and the patriarchs of the various major families came. The patriarchs of the various major families also stared at the elites of the various major families. They were extremely nervous. This was because they knew that if one wanted to enter the Great Void Imperial Sacred Academy, there was no need to go through the 4th round. Only by passing the 2nd round would one be able to enter the Great Void Imperial Sacred Academy. Therefore, this round was the most crucial. Time passed quickly. Soon 10 days had passed. Suddenly, the sound of glass cracking could be heard. The seed of black-yellow in the hands of one of the young men cracked. Then, a tender sprout appeared. As time passed, the tender sprout slowly grew. He did it. My disciple did it. Someone laughed. That young man had successfully germinated the seed of black-yellow, which meant that he had passed this round. This young man seemed to have broken the silence. Next, cracking sounds could be heard continuously. More people's seed of black-yellow cracked, revealing a tender sprout. Of course, more people did not germinate the seed of black-yellow. The strangest thing was that the 10 heroes of the Holy Capital, Di Jianyi, Chu Chengkong, Qian Shengxian, and the others did not germinate the seed of black-yellow. What's going on? Those who are obviously weaker have germinated the seed of black-yellow. Why didn't the 10 heroes of the Holy Capital germinate the seed of black-yellow? I don't know. Every time the Imperial Sacred Academy opens, the content of the test is different. I don't know what's going on either. Maybe it's because they're well prepared. Otherwise, it's impossible that no one succeeded. Many people were discussing. As time passed, more and more people succeeded. However, Lu Ming, Autumn Moon, and Lan Ling did not succeed. Chapter 3209. 20 days had passed. At this time, those who succeeded had the mysterious yellow seed's tender shoot continuously growing. The tallest one had the mysterious yellow seed grow to a full meter long. Good preparation is the key to success. Good preparation is the key to success. Someone exclaimed. They realized that the later they germinated, the more talented they were, and the longer their buds grew. Of course, they had to germinate before the 30th day. Otherwise, they would have failed after the 30th day. From the 20th day onwards, those who germinated the black-yellow seed were the true elites, and the buds grew longer and longer. The tallest one was 5 meters long, like a small tree. On the 26th day, the black-yellow seed in Lan Ling's hand finally cracked. A bud grew out and started to grow crazily. Soon, it grew to about 6 meters. It was verdant and looked like a real tree. Lu Ming and Autumn Moon's black-yellow seed did not germinate. Time passed quickly, and it was the 30th day. It was the last day. Almost everyone's eyes were focused on the 10 heroes of the holy capital, Di Jiani, and the others. Crack, crack. Almost at the same time, the black-yellow seeds in the hands of the 10 heroes of the holy capital, Di Jiani, Chu Chenkong, and the others cracked. Of course, that included Lu Ming and Autumn Moon. After their black-yellow seeds cracked, the buds started to grow crazily. 1 meter, 2 meters, 3 meters, 4 meters. Soon, it exceeded the previous maximum of 6 meters and continued to grow. Look, Yuan Jie's buds have stopped growing. They've stopped at 6. 5 meters, someone exclaimed. Sure enough, they saw that one of the holy capital's 10 prodigies, Yuan Jie's sprout had stopped growing. It was only 5 meters tall. As for the others, they were still growing. Of course, after that, there were people whose buds stopped growing. Look, Di Jiani's black-yellow seed is growing so fast. Chu Chenkong and Su Weia are also very fast. Many people cried out in shock because they realized that these people's Xianhuang sprouts were growing too quickly. They had already surpassed 9 meters and were charging towards a height of 10 meters. Their mysterious yellow tender sprouts are so ferocious. Suddenly, someone cried out in alarm, full of shock. Not only them, but the others who saw this scene were also very shocked. These two people were, of course, Lu Ming and Autumn Moon. The mysterious yellow tender buds in their hands also grew at a shocking speed. Its speed was no slower than Di Jiani, Chu Chenkong, and the others. Nest, who are these people? This is too awesome, I've never seen it before. This stage tests one's perception and imagination. Such speed, perception, and imagination are astonishing. Every time the Great Void Imperial Family Sacred Academy's examination, a dark horse like this would appear. Many people were discussing in shock. It's them. In the crowd, the 9 Absolutes' Heavenly King revealed a look of joy. The Wu family's patriarch and experts, who were on good terms with Lu Ming, also looked happy. Lu Ming is amazing. Wu Zifeng and Yu Linglong also came to watch, their faces full of admiration. As for the Jin family, Qin family, and Winged family, they were gnashing their teeth. This kid, the 9 Sabers' Heavenly King, also looked at Lu Ming, his eyes emitting a cold, murderous intent. Gradually, many of the mysterious yellow tender buds of the 10 heroes of the holy capital stopped growing. The 1,000 Shengxian also stopped growing, and the mysterious yellow tender buds stopped growing at 10 meters. Then, Chu Chenkong and Autumn Moon's mysterious yellow tender buds stopped growing at almost the same time. Their mysterious yellow tender buds stopped at 12 meters. Who is this little girl? What terrifying talent! She can actually tie with Chu Chenkong. Chu Chenkong is known as the strongest supreme talent in the history of the War God family. There is no doubt about his talent. This little girl also has such talent. Terrifying. The most terrifying ones are that kid and Di Jiani. The scene was noisy, and many people could not remain calm. Now, only Lu Ming, Di Jiani, and Su Weia were still growing their mysterious yellow tender buds. Su Weia was known as the leader of the 10 heroes of the holy capital. His combat strength was unparalleled, and no one could beat him. Now, not to mention combat strength, there were 2 people who could match Su Weia in terms of comprehension and imagination. After a while, Su Weia's mysterious yellow tender buds grew slower and finally stopped at 13 meters. Only Lu Ming and Di Jiani's mysterious yellow tender buds were still growing. In the end, both of their mysterious yellow tender buds stopped at 15 meters. 15 meters was 2 meters taller than the cliff of nothingness, which was 13 meters tall. This was shocking. D. Ginny, a peerless swordsman from the small thousand world, has such talent. Terrifying. This kind of person can be said to be the main character of the small thousand world. However, there are many of them. There are only a few who can rise after entering the great thousand world. The key is, who is the other person? He also has such talent. It's really shocking. Everyone sighed. I know. He is Lu Ming from the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion. Suddenly, there was a voice. Obviously, it was from the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion. He is a supreme talent from the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion. Brother 9 Extinction, congratulations. The 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion has such a supreme talent. Suddenly, there were heavenly kings from other heavenly king mansions who looked at the 9 Extinction Heavenly King and congratulated him. Humph, he only has better comprehension and imagination. In the end, it still depends on his combat power. If his combat power is not enough, everything is in vain. The 9 Sabers Heavenly King snorted coldly and was very unhappy. Who is the divine king genius who defeated the 9 Sabers Heavenly King Mansion as a heavenly god? The 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion replied faintly. The 9 Sabers Heavenly King Mansion suddenly stopped talking. Everyone was discussing as they waited. 30 days had not passed. Lu Ming and the others had not woken up and did not know their results. In addition, there were many people whose mysterious yellow tender buds had not sprouted. The forces that those people belonged to were sighing. Those who had not sprouted were probably doomed to be eliminated. They did not think that those people were well prepared. Even D. Ginny and the others' mysterious yellow tender buds had sprouted. How could those people be more well prepared than D. Ginny and the others? Those people had not sprouted because they could not let the mysterious yellow tender buds germinate. Very soon, 30 days had passed. All right, 1 month has passed. This round is over, the Grand Master said. He then waved and a gust of energy spread out. Suddenly, Lu Ming and the others left the space and woke up. After they woke up, they looked at their mysterious yellow tender buds. Mine sprouted. Mine sprouted. Mine sprouted too. Those who saw their mysterious yellow tender buds were elated. Mine did not germinate. How could this be? Damn it, D***it. Many people who did not germinate roared and lamented. They had all kinds of emotions. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.